Today, I'm going to talk about photographing the total solar eclipse. 2017 was the first time I have ever photographed a total solar eclipse. I've photographed a partial solar eclipse, annular, and a lunar solar eclipse, but this was my first time doing a total. There was a lot of things that I didn't know what to expect. I didn't, no matter what you research, in the end, it all comes down to what happens that day, how the weather pans out. So I'm going to do my best to share with you what I learned when I photographed the total solar eclipse in 2017. So hopefully it could help many of you who have come to me asking me questions about how do you photograph the solar eclipse. Here we go. One of the things that I try to do the most is plan. I've been planning for the last year. Actually, I've been planning since the 2017 total solar eclipse. The first thing I did was look for the path. What is the path? And the great thing is that these are mapped out for years. You can see the next total solar eclipses for the next century all mapped out. Unfortunately, this one in the US is going to be the last one for a while. The next one's going to be in 2045. You want to try to experience this if you can. Kim, my wife, was very skeptical at first as far as going out of our way. We were living in Hawaii at the time of the 2017 solar eclipse, and so we had to fly to the mainland to take a chance to see the total solar eclipse. One thing I will say is that anytime you go see a total solar eclipse, you're at risk of possibly not seeing it. The main reason that you wouldn't see it is the weather, clouds. Sometimes you can see it with the clouds, see it through the clouds, but there's a good chance that there's a risk of really dense cloud cover that you may not see anything at all. And so to go and travel and book a hotel, rent a car, and either map out a spot where you're going to be and all this stuff and plan your shoot, in the end, none of it will matter if it's cloudy and you don't see anything. So this is one of the biggest gambles that you're going to take trying to go see total solar eclipse. The one thing that we are doing this time around differently than we did with the last one is that we have the potential to just drive to our location, not terribly far, but at least within a 5-hour distance to see it. One thing you do have the potential option of doing is if the forecasted weather looks bad in the area, you could potentially drive away and plan a plan B option. If the weather is clear in a short distance, not too far, you could map it out. But in the end, you got to remember forecasts aren't even perfect either. So you do risk that as well. A lot of the big question marks is the time of year that this total solar eclipse is happening. A majority of the United States this time of year has a high chance of cloud cover. Do your best to map it out. Most people don't go to the trouble that I go to plan and photograph it. Some people just want to show up, whip out their phone, take a photo. That's not me. I want to plan. I want to get a clear shot. I want to get a high resolution shot. I want to potentially print these when I'm done. I also want to get video of the experience, and I also want to experience it myself, not just take pictures of it and not just record it. So it's a lot, and I put myself under a lot of stress to even go through all this trouble. It is March 9th, and we are still too far away to get even a forecast or an idea. There are some models already, but there's still no way to know for sure what the cloud cover is going to be that day. The next thing you want to be very careful of, especially if you're going to be using professional cameras with lenses, anything you're going to point at the sun, as you know, you're required to wear sunglasses when you're looking at the sun during a solar eclipse. In fact, even when you're looking at the sun in general, you do not want to look directly at the sun. It will damage your eyes. It will damage things. And you've seen the example of a magnifying glass, people burning things by just simply holding a magnifying glass or glass in general and having the sun magnify it and causing a fire. This would happen to your retinas. This would happen to your sensor, your camera sensor. If you point a camera at the sun for too long, you will destroy your camera. And that goes for any camera, really. The big thing everyone asks is, getting the proper filter. One big tip you're going to need to know for the total solar eclipse is that when they say you need a filter and when they say you need glasses, you only need them for the moments before totality and the moments after totality. During totality, the moon is blocking the sun. And so therefore it's actually safe to then take off your glasses, to remove the filter off your lens, and look at it with your eyes directly. You're definitely, if you're trying to get a bright shot, you're going to want to pull that filter off your camera once totality is in play, because your filter will actually darken it to the point where you won't even be able to see anything. It'll just be black. And I'll show you an example here of what I'm talking about. As I'm recording here in 2017, you're going to see what it looks like with the filter on, and then when I pull the filter off. This was something that I noticed and I didn't think about and I didn't plan. And when totality happens, you get kind of overwhelmed with the emotion of the whole experience. It is surreal. It is breathtaking. It is emotional. I was tearing. My wife was tearing. Like, it was an incredible experience that when you see the sun in the sky with the corona and the white, looking flames that are coming out of the edges of the sun, it is so surreal to see, and it's amazing, and it's such a small period of time. For somebody who's going and setting up cameras and documenting this experience, it's challenging to enjoy the experience and then document it at the same time. And so one thing that happened in 2017 was I started grabbing my photos really quick. I started to make sure I checked my cameras to make sure that they were recording. And then I made sure to at least grab a few seconds. We only had about a minute of time for totality. So I was trying to make sure to take it in. I was trying to make sure that Kim was experiencing this, getting her face out from behind the camera and just looking at the sky and looking around you and taking the whole thing in. So when totality happens, dedicate some time to looking around, looking at the sky with your own eyes, not looking through a screen, not looking through a camera, and take it in, even if it's just for 15 seconds, because you're going to want to see it with your own eyes. The other thing too is, depending on where you are in the path of totality, that will determine how long you will experience totality. You will notice that some of the points along the path of totality have a different duration of time of totality. We're planning on going to the upstate New York Whiteface area, and I believe the time is around 3 minutes. Some areas between Texas and Ohio are only down to a minute. To have those extra 2 minutes compared to the last time we experienced it, I'm very excited for. Now, going through my first experience in 2017, I feel much better prepared this time around, and I know what to do. For instance, I felt like I had to capture every moment from the start of the eclipse to the end of the eclipse, not just totality. Whereas now I realize that if I photograph those portions again, they're going to look very similar to what I photographed in 2017, and I don't want to do that. So I'm trying to do my best to somehow document this in a way that's unique, that isn't just pointing the camera lens directly at the sun really up close. And so my hope is to have a wide angle lens to capture the surrounding darkness in addition to capturing the eclipse up close. So I have something unique, something that demonstrates the location, because if you're using a telephoto lens or something pointed really tight and you're just filling your frame with the sun, you could be anywhere, and it'll just look the same for everybody. So, challenge yourself to take something unique. You might have seen this piece of cardboard in my hand. I'm going to reference the filter that I used, and a lot of people are asking me, well, how do you find a filter? Most people have not planned. Most people are scrambling now that we have less than a month to go before the eclipse, looking for a filter for their camera lenses. In 2017, I intended on using a 800 millimeter lens. And the problem with that is that there isn't a filter that fits that diameter of a lens. I had to find something bigger. I ended up researching these sheets of solar filters, and I'm gonna hold the mic here, but you can kind of get a sense here. This is what it looks like. And so what I ended up doing was, because this is a simple sheet of paper and I can't just hold this over my lens the whole time, you can tell from the photos here that I ended up getting some styrofoam and some cardboard, white cardboard, from a craft store. And I ended up cutting the exact diameter of the hood, the lens hood of the camera lens, like here, and making sure that I could use the styrofoam and glue it to the cardboard so that it would hold the cardboard on. And then what I did was I measured the diameter of the lens hood in the cardboard, cut out that circular hole, and placed the sheet in between two pieces of thin white cardboard. And I glued the styrofoam to the back of it so that I could have a makeshift, affordable filter that I could make sure it would stay on and I could easily pull off when I needed to during totality, and then put it back on again. This was a perfect solution. From all of this experience, it really makes me more comforted this time around in knowing. Now, again, I'm taking the risk of the weather. The other thing that it was kind of off chance. We didn't pick a location when we went to Jackson Hole, Wyoming. We wanted to be up high. And the reason for that was we wanted to be up high because we wanted to be able to see the shadow coming towards us and going over us and moving past us. What better way than going to a mountain? And it turns out that the Weather Channel was there, and we knew some friends at the Weather Channel, and they ended up helping us come over. And I shouldn't say they, my friend Mike ended up getting us some passes and going up to this event that they were holding at the summit of a ski resort. Now, it was off season. This was in August. It was in the middle of the summer in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. It was, believe it or not, still surprisingly cold, but it wasn't snow covered. There was some snow on the mountain areas around us. It was comfortable. It was windy and chilly in the morning, but it wasn't terrible by the time. Obviously, it was getting cooler when the sun was starting to get covered by the moon and during totality. But once the sun came out in full, it was definitely warm. So our hope is to go to a high up vantage point again in upstate New York. The tricky part now is that we're talking April. It's still very cold at high altitudes in upstate New York at that time of year. We do risk snow cover. They're getting snow as we speak. And we're less than a month out, so there's most likely going to be snow on the ground. There's a potential that the roads going to a high up vantage point like Whiteface Mountain may not even be open for us to even get up there, so we might have to have a plan B to figure out where we can go and get somewhat of a high vantage point. The reason for that is that you want to be able to get a vast concept as to why is this different than any other day. And so the idea during a total solar eclipse is that it looks like sunset in the middle of the day. You want to look at the horizon. You want to see the horizon. You want to see the stars that are coming out in the middle of the day. This is what makes it surreal. The other really cool thing that I didn't remember to do in 2017, but other people were doing, is they had things with holes in them. In fact, somebody had a sign or a piece of cardboard. They had punched out holes spelling out Jackson 17. And the thing about holes with the total solar eclipse is during the partial, you'll notice that anything that causes a shadow shows a curvature of the sun's shadow on the ground. Another cool gimmick that you could do while you're waiting for totality to happen. The other thing too is you don't necessarily have to experience totality. I highly recommend you experience totality, but there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be in New York City and DC and all these major cities with landscapes who are going to get shots of the partial solar eclipse with, skyscrapers and the landmarks. I have a shot of the Statue of Liberty with the partial solar eclipse that I had photographed a couple years ago. I also brought with me GoPros. I had the 360 camera. I actually, if you check out the other videos on my YouTube channel, which I will link here, I have a 360 so you can actually pan around and experience what we experienced on Jackson Hole. And then I had a GoPro to just capture our reaction. I wanted to set a camera and forget it because I didn't want to be holding all these cameras. So I had cameras pointing at us. I had cameras pointing at the people around us. So you could get a really good experience of this moment because, man, it goes by so quick. Start planning now if you haven't already. Take a look at the path. Take a look at the duration. Start mapping out where you want to go for the total solar eclipse. And if you don't really care so much and you just want to see a partial, pretty much everyone's going to experience a partial at some point. Some not as much of a partial than others. Obviously, the further away you get from the totality, the path of totality, the less of a partial you're going to experience. So the other thing too is that we are looking at upstate New York to drive to, but if we find as we get closer that the forecast is really hammering away, that it's going to be cloudy or rainy or whatever, we're probably going to make a last minute decision to potentially go down to Texas. The duration is going to be shorter down there, but we'll probably have a better chance at clear skies down in Texas than we would in upstate New York or anywhere like Pennsylvania or Ohio and so forth. So good luck to everybody. If you have any questions, please post in the comment below. I hope this was helpful. Please like and subscribe. I do not post that often, but when I do, I try to post useful information like this. I hope this was helpful for you. And let me know what else you would like to hear from me about. Thank you very much for watching. So I recorded my video last night and I thought of a bunch of more tips that I didn't address in my initial video. So I'm going to tack these on in my video here. So I'm going to run through these kind of in a lightning round here. So some tips that I thought of that I didn't touch on are rehearse your shot. So try to get there a day or two before, see where the sun is in the sky, see what is around you. So whatever shot that you're trying to frame up in your composition, this is the best opportunity that you're going to have to know where the sun is in the sky. I'll touch on something else that'll help you on the location of the sun in the sky later on in the tips. The lens that I've used is the 800 millimeter in the past. It's a very expensive lens. And so I don't recommend buying it if you, unless you have a lot of money. So what I actually did for that scenario in 2017 is I rented a lens. Lensrentals.com is my top choice. They'll ship you the lens. I would look now because there's a good chance it might not have any available for the dates of the eclipse at this point. But trying to go to a local camera store, they could potentially rent a lens for you. Focal length is going to be key. I tried using a 70 to 200. It is just too far. You just can't get close enough to the sun. If you're looking to fill the sun in your frame, you want to shoot at minimum 400 millimeters, at maximum 1200 millimeters. You could also use extenders to give yourself more reach if you're trying to get a nice just tight shot of the sun during the eclipse. Tracking the sun is a challenge. A lot of telescopes, you'll notice you're able to program that the telescope can follow the path because, as you know, the Earth spins. And so the sun is going to move out of your frame once you lock down your shot at any given moment. You can't just lock down and set it and forget it unless you have a motorized head program to follow the sun. So you're going to have to constantly move your camera, and if you're on a tripod, and set it, because you'll notice after 5 or 10 minutes the sun will completely move out of your frame, especially if you're trying to either video or photograph the entire experience from the beginning of the eclipse to the end of the eclipse. So look into motorized tripod heads, or just make sure you're paying attention and move your camera lens every 5 to 10 minutes. This is tricky, and you can practice this the days before. So, see how long it takes from the sun to move from one corner of the frame to the next. Be prepared to change your camera settings quickly. There are some folks that suggest using aperture mode. I shoot entirely manual. The reason why you need to change your settings quickly is obviously you're having you have a filter on your lens to protect it, your sensor, and so your camera settings, you need to bump up your exposure in order to be able to see the sun in your shot. But as soon as you rip that filter off, everything's going to be extremely overexposed, and so you're going to have to quickly change your settings to experience and see the detail of the corona once you're in totality. The corona will be very bright and overexposed. If you're shooting with an iPhone, this can be challenging. A lot of people are going to try and zoom in on the phone. Keep in mind, the more you zoom in on your iPhone or your mobile phone, the less quality of an image you have. You'll somewhat see the dark spot in the middle, the moon covering the sun, but the brightness of the corona, the white around the sun, will be so bright, even though it's very dark, it will be so bright that your phone, it will be hard to tell the sun is covered. So try to zoom in a little bit, tap on the sun on your phone. If you tap on it, it will help reduce the brightness or exposure and help you see at least a little bit more detail when you're taking a picture with your mobile device. Memory cards, batteries, chargers for your phone, bring them. Bring as many as you can. You're going to be out there for at least 2 to 3 hours. The entire experience is 2 to 3 hours. So, and you're going to be using your phone the entire time. Bring batteries to back it up, especially if you're going somewhere remote and you're going to be out there for a while. You're going to need your phone before or after as well. Your phone is going to need juice, and your cameras are going to need juice. So be prepared with lots of batteries that are fully charged. To have a longer experience in totality, the closer to the center line, so when you look at the maps of totality, the closer to the center line that you are, the longer of an experience you will have. I'm not really sure the science of this, but just keep that in mind. You want to be closer to the center line if you want to have more time in totality. Another tip, especially people with mobile phones, clean your lens. Wipe your lens with a soft cloth or your shirt that doesn't have any debris on it. If you're using a camera that you don't normally use, you just whipped it out and it was sitting in your office or your closet, clean your lens. You're going to be dealing with bright exposure, and any fingerprints on the lens or anything like that is just going to ruin your image or make it look cloudy. Your sweet spot, if you're shooting with a camera, is going to be around f5.6 and f8. Your base exposure is going to be somewhere around 1/100th to 1/500th of a second, depending on your focal length. You're going to want to make sure, if you're using a DSLR, you want to shoot RAW. Don't shoot JPEG, because you're going to want to edit these photos later. You may want to, if you're shooting with a DSLR that has the ability to bracket your images, and what bracketing is it takes multiple exposures in a burst mode at a given time, and that will give you your ability to merge those photos to get a little bit more detail later. Some people like to attempt to see the detail of the moon blocking the sun, and that's challenging. But as you know, when you try to increase your exposure to see the detail of the moon, the corona around the moon is going to be very bright and overexposed. So this is going to take some editing in post, where you're going to have to merge the photos to reduce the brightness of the corona and increase the exposure of the moon to be able to see the detail. This is a tricky science, but a lot of photographers like this look when taking the eclipse. There's also the diamond ring effect. This was something I actually experienced by accident when I ripped off the filter when I was going from capturing the partial eclipse to totality. I got it overexposed, but you could see when the moon comes to fully block the sun, you're going to get like a really shiny spot, like a star effect. And I'm going to show you an example here in this quick video. It's really quick, but I got a really cool shot. It's overexposed and you don't see a lot of detail, but I actually like the look of this photo where it looks like a diamond ring. Another thing you're going to want to do is planning to know where the sun is. To refer to my initial question regarding how to plan where you want to be, There are a lot of mobile apps that you can use to see where the sun will be, where the shadows are going to be during the day of, and you can use these kind of mobile apps to do that. One of them is called Photo Pills. Another one is called Sun Surveyor, and another one is called Photographer's Ephemeris. I have found these apps very difficult to use and not very user-friendly. There's a lot of YouTube videos on how to teach you how to use them. I'm not one of those people. I don't use them, but I know a lot of people who do. A lot of people use these images to know when the moon is going to be behind the Empire State Building, or the sunset is going to be in a particular spot, that you can get a particular object in the foreground lined up with the sun or the moon. These apps are great for that. So, but that is my lightning round of tips. I hope this was very helpful. I look forward to seeing what you guys have. Tag me. I would be happy to retweet them, reshare them, repost them on whatever social platform. I'm on all of them. Please follow me on Instagram, on X, on YouTube, on TikTok. I appreciate your support. Thank you.